Hello and welcome back. Now, if you're a frequent viewer of this channel, you know that I do a weekly schedule video that usually comes out on Sunday evening, letting you know who has the best and worst schedules, a look at some waiver ad options, and some trending players as well. But this week that didn't happen, and for good reason. You've done all this work preparing for your draft, drafting your team, and now is not the time to be making trades, or dropping a bunch of guys just to play the schedule. And for this week anyways, the max amount of games for any team is 3. And the most teams in the league are playing 2 or 3 games anyways. There's only a couple that only play once. So maximizing games played isn't really that much of an advantage this week as it stands. So what we'll do today is we'll look at a midweek update. This will probably be coming out Thursday in the morning or afternoon. So you can use this to head into the weekend and pick up some guys. If you had some guys that you drafted that were on IR and you stashed them and you need a couple of pickups, we're not going to go too much into the players, but just sort of look at the teams that we can pick from as we head into the weekend. So that's what we'll start with right now. So what you're looking at here is a new tool that I'm in process of developing, and it's not currently finished. I still have to add a change percentage interval for each of these tables to give us a sense of who's trending in the right direction, which I can't do until week 1 is over. But right now you're seeing the teams that play the most times this week, the least times this week, back-to-backs, and a light night count for each of these teams. And this will help you identify teams that you might want to pick from. So this is looking from the beginning of the week, where Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh would have been your teams to pick from because they have 2 light nights out of 3 games total. But they obviously both played last night or 2 nights ago if you're watching this on Thursday, so they're not necessarily all going to be the most favorable schedules heading into the weekend. So what I've done is I've taken a look at the schedule going into the weekend, and there are a number of teams who play twice and don't have a weekend back-to-back. Those teams are Buffalo. I'll just pull it up right here so you can read along. Buffalo, Columbus, Detroit, Florida, Minnesota, New Jersey, Nashville, the Rangers, Flyers, Seattle, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas. Those are the teams that play twice between Thursday and Sunday and don't have a weekend back-to-back. So what you're looking at here are the players from those teams, and they're sorted by weighted rating. This will be adjusted a little bit. We're not going to, the weighted rating that I was using in the pre-draft was adding in historical metrics that we're not necessarily going to use during the season. So this will adjust as we move forward, but you can also get that standard completeness rating, which I used all last year on the Player Hub. And obviously the guys at the top here are owned up for the most part, but in each of your leagues, there's going to be different players available on the wire. So all you do is scroll down a little bit and try to find some guys that may or may not be available for you to pick up. Maybe a guy like Gudis is still available in your league. He's not necessarily completely owned up. As we move forward, maybe Marchessault is available in certain league formats. Patrick Kane, obviously not a Ranger anymore, but doesn't have a lot of data because he's still out. But there's guys further down this list that you might want to take a look at from these teams. And we're not going to go into too much detail here because, again, nobody's played and we don't really have an idea too much about line combinations until a lot of these teams get going. But in addition to that, there are a number of teams who do play a couple of times between now and Sunday, but they do have a weekend back-to-back. And those teams are Anaheim, Carolina, we have Ottawa, Tampa Bay, who already played this week, and that would be the teams that have back-to-backs this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday. So these are the rest of the teams that you can look at for the ads this week. And again, the guys at the top are owned up. As you move forward, down a little bit here, there are some guys, Frank Vetrano, maybe Troy Terry or Zegras are available, and maybe you can pick them up for the weekend. Some of these guys are specialty tools. AC Mott might be a penalty killer type of player. Brandon Hagel had a nice start to his season the other night. And as we move down, you get a little bit more of the specialty tools. Some of these guys are probably not owned up in a lot of your leagues. Jordan Stahl's a Faceoff specialist. You have some other guys down here. Shane Pinto's not playing right now. So a lot of this is still in progress because the season hasn't gotten underway. But this is a good tool as well to look at what goalies you might want to stream. So obviously, these teams play back-to-back, so one of these goalies down here is going to get a start. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury dropped like a rock in one of my league drafts on Monday, and I got him pretty much, I think, at 150 or 160 ADP, which is kind of insane. And he might have actually fallen through your draft undrafted, which is kind of crazy to think. He had a 908 save percentage last year and actually played pretty well in terms of the numbers. Obviously not the goalie he used to be, but still. Some of these guys, Brossoit will probably get in a game with them having a back-to-back. The tandem, Copley and Thompson, those two guys are probably going to get in there. Casey DeSmith might get in there. Obviously, he's not playing for Pittsburgh anymore. Again, there needs to be some refinements made to this as we move forward and get more usable data. But some of these guys will be available for you to stream this weekend. So just take a look at this list. See if anybody sparks your attention. Maybe Joseph Wall gets in a game over the weekend. Maybe some of these guys are a little bit more valuable than others. Obviously, just realize that this filter is not filtering the goalies. It will. Just a simple error there. So as this gets built out, as this gets a little bit more solidified, this will become more and more useful. But for right now, just looking at the teams that play this weekend, there's a number of them, and you can probably pick up anybody that you need off of the waiver wire from these teams that will be able to help you just fill in guys that are injured or maybe not playing right now. Guys like Kane, who you might have stashed, or injured reserve players that you need somebody to fill in. Now, in case you're a visual person like I am, I really like this tool off of Daily Faceoff. I pretty much used it exclusively last year in the weekly videos, just showing where teams play in terms of, do they have a back-to-back like Anaheim does here? The Sabres play a little bit spaced out. They play on Thursday and Saturday. So this gives you a little bit better idea of who you can target. Almost everybody plays on Saturday, 14 games playing, which is obviously 28 teams. So there's a number of players that you can pick up for Saturday, but maybe you want guys who play 2 games over the next couple days. Ideally, if you're looking for goaltending streams, you're going to want a guy who plays back-to-back either Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. But if you're picking up players, it's usually better to not have guys on back-to-backs as they're not quite as fresh, even though they're just coming off of training camp. So you might want to go with a Buffalo Sabres ad, maybe a Columbus Blue Jackets ad. Detroit plays Thursday, Saturday as well. Same with Florida, same with Minnesota, and all those other teams that we mentioned in the first part of this video. But just to give you a sense of who they're playing and maybe some matchups that you might want to take advantage of, the Devils have a pretty favorable schedule here, taking on Detroit and Arizona. The Rangers have a relatively favorable schedule here. Just looking at Columbus being one of those teams that's kind of, not necessarily at the top of the standings in the Metro. And then Buffalo, who's probably an up-and-coming team, but maybe we'll have to wait and see how they come out of the gate. Philadelphia, has some winnable games here, at least against, 2 teams that are relatively close in terms of their strength. Obviously, Ottawa should be a little bit better this year and should be pushing for a playoff spot, but who knows? Chicago just beat Pittsburgh again last night, so they knocked them out of the playoffs last year, come back and beat them on opening night, so anything can happen night one. San Jose has a really tough schedule. Maybe you want to fade those guys, and pretty much everybody is already fading these guys. Seattle with a decent schedule here. Not crazy in terms of the strength of their opponents, but obviously they'll probably play play against Saros here on Thursday night. That could be very difficult. But obviously, if you watched the game last night, Nashville does not have the best offense, so that is a winnable game for Seattle, and they're coming off a loss against Vegas. Then you've got St. Louis with a couple of tough games here against Dallas and Seattle, so maybe fade those St. Louis ads for just this week. And then going down to the bottom, really favorable schedule for Vegas as they take on San Jose and Anaheim. And that will probably be the last of these that don't have the weekend back-to-back. If you're looking for that Sunday ad, though, and you're trying to win your week and you're trying to get out ahead of next week's games, you could probably look at some of these matchups. You would want Carolina Hurricanes on Sunday playing against Anaheim. That will be a really favorable matchup for Carolina, although it is the second night of a back-to-back. They do have 3 good goaltenders if you want to count Kochetkov, but he's obviously not going to get into one of these games, so it'll be Anderson and Ranta playing in these games. You could pick up Ranta for the stream on Sunday. Some of these other, there's only one other game actually, so Tampa Bay taking on Ottawa. That should be a really entertaining game. And I'm curious to see what Tampa Bay does in terms of their backup, because obviously they're playing Johansson right now. I don't recall who they actually have as their backup right now. Last I checked, they didn't sign anybody, but I'm guessing they absolutely had to do that before the season started, so I'm probably just a little bit behind after going through 2 drafts on Monday night. But that's going to do it for this video. Obviously, on next Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, there will be a full weekly breakdown video. going over the same type of information and some early season player trends. Some of the things that I've noticed just in watching last night, which was Tuesday night, some of those power play quarterback shares have been coming in handy. Sergachev had some points last night, or had a point last night. Hedman was quarterbacking power play 1. You saw both Pittsburgh defensemen on power play 1 in their game. And Chris Letang had a nice assist in that game, had some hits and blocks. So some of the stuff that we were talking about in the preseason is starting to come to fruition, and we'll get a better sense of that come this Sunday. So stay tuned for this Sunday's video. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for all of your support during draft season. I truly appreciate it. This channel has been really, really fun to run over the past couple of months as things ramped up towards draft season. So if you've been paying attention to the videos, if you signed up to be a patron, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really means a lot to me. I appreciate all of you guys out there clicking that like button, clicking subscribe, and signing up to the Patreon. It really means a lot to me, so I want to thank you guys for doing that. But thanks again, and I'll see you Sunday.